Tonight is an auspicious occasion for us, but I personally do not wish to bore you with worldly philosophy nor verbal acrobatics. We live in a confusing world, one of constant change, and one of blatant mixed messages. For the early part of our lives, we are told frequently to get lost. And then, when we enter school, we're told frequently to find ourselves. The confusion of being lost is like a pilot whose voice comes over the address system of an international flight. Ladies and gentlemen, the pilot says, I have two pieces of news for you. One is good and one is bad. First, the bad news. We are lost, hopelessly lost. But the good news is that we have a 200-mile-an-hour tailwind. I think that this adequately sums up the situation for many of us. We have a 200-mile-an-hour tailwind pushing us, but we are as yet unsure of our destination. The cure for this confusion is to sit down and think through your options rationally. This logic is seen in the patient who has been given a mental status examination to determine his sanity. When asked how he would feel if one of his ears would be cut off, he replied that that would be a terrible misfortune. When asked what would happen if he were to lose both ears that way, he replied that it would be an unmitigated disaster because he would go blind. This comment led to some consternation until the patient explained that without ears he would be unable to wear his glasses and would therefore go blind. On a more serious note, Albert Einstein remarked that many times today he realized how much his life was built on the labors of his fellow men and how earnestly he exerted himself in order to give in return as much as he had received. Such humility is a hallmark of great men. To this end, I would encourage you to reflect on your past with Bullard High, this present event, and your future, to think of those who have had a positive impact on your education. Perhaps we can remember our alma mater with this thought in our graduation, with due acknowledgement to the Reverend John Hughes of Ripon College. You leave like the volcanic stones, your precious alma mater. We hope that you'll keep coming back to see the dear old crater.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Lynn. We, the class of 1987, have had a number of diverse experiences that have given each individual his own permanent memory of his high school years. Some remember the competition of an athletic event, music festival, or debate tournament. Others recall social experiences, such as dating, partying, or the ever-popular loitering at 7-Eleven. Still others may be ever haunted by the academic rigors of high school, or by that one irrational, unfeeling teacher who somehow saw through every one of those legitimate excuses for not having homework done. There is, however, one memory that can be found in nearly every graduate here this evening. That is the memory of those days spent at Edison High School when we were young freshmen. I'm sure everyone recalls the transition from junior to senior high school. Struggling out of bed at 5:30 in order to catch the bus, 25 minutes later, standing in front of the unknown school, huddled in little groups, wondering if we would make it through the first day, to say nothing of the entire year. Getting acquainted with the new teachers and surroundings, eating lunch out on the lawn, and boarding the bus for the return trip home. This quickly became the routine, and soon we all realized that Edison was simply another school. After some weeks passed, most of us began branching out and meeting people from the Edison area. Eventually, we became fairly secure in our new surroundings, and many were even enjoying the situation. The members of this class that I've talked to agree that their year at Edison was worthwhile and interesting. Many friendships were formed that have lasted these 3 years and will hopefully continue into the future. The year proved to most of us that people are people, regardless of skin color. The beginning of our sophomore year included another school transition. Bullard, however, was more familiar to most of us, and with the new freshman class, we weren't picked on by the upperclassmen nearly as much. Sometime during the year, many of us got our driver's licenses, allowing for further freedom and more social possibilities. Yes, the memories of this class are numerous, and each individual will look back at different experiences. I've mentioned just a few universal memories here, but I hope that all you graduates can look on these past few years with satisfaction and pride. I'd like to conclude with a quote by Mrs. Henry Bertram Law. The past is only the present, become invisible and mute. And because it is invisible and mute, its memory glances and its murmurs are infinitely precious.
After a
God bless you all.
party, or deciding you owe yourself an hour and a half of lunch. A few were even original with what we'll call a minor faux pas of breaking a $2,000 backboard during a school rally. There are, of course, more productive times too that have made our senior year very memorable. We've soaked up the sun on beach day, enjoyed the moonlit evenings of the formal and prom, and cheered for our outstanding athletic teams, and came out strong in various academic competitions. Tonight, as we say goodbye to our past and give a great welcome to our future, it is important that we recognize where we stand now. Gladys Tabor, an American author, once said, "We need time to dream, time to remember, time to reach the infinite, time to be." There are some who dwell too much on the past, or are consistently worried about the future, or simply rush through life without stopping to take notice of what's around them and taking what we'll call the time to be. What we do now not only decides the accomplishments we'll look back upon and remember, but it also steers the wheel towards our dreams. We should never kid ourselves into thinking that we aren't important and shouldn't participate in society. It would be a shame if we were like the fellow who was once asked, "Which is worse, ignorance or apathy?" And the man said, "I don't know, and I don't care." Not only is what we do now important, whether we'll be in college or have a job, but it is important that we appreciate what we have, such as family, friends, and yes, even the knowledge that we now possess gained from those teachers who actually did make a difference. One of the saddest aspects of society is the large percentage of people who become discontented because of what they think they don't have, instead of realizing and concentrating on what they do have. Your lives are yours to lead now, and we have a lot to be thankful for. I'm sure you'll keep precious memories close to your heart, and I know you'll make careful plans for the future, but I hope you always enjoy what you have in the present, and this particular night is one to savor. My best wishes and congratulations to the class of 1987.
On this eve of our promising future, an exciting and auspicious occasion, I am drawn to recount a myth, the myth of Sisyphus. Aside from being an interesting story, it says quite a bit about human nature and human future. One day, all the gods convened to condemn the mortal named Sisyphus to the most wretched and unforgiving punishment ever conceived. Ancient poets disagree as to what exactly Sisyphus did to merit such punishment. Some say he divulged Zeus' secret and incurred great wrath. Others say he showed contempt for the gods and wanted to live forever. But for our purpose, it is sufficient to accept the fact that he has been tossed to the underworld without knowing the true impetus. Rather, we must focus on his cruel punishment, whose nature can be found in eternally futile labor. Sisyphus is condemned to rolling a huge rock up a mountain, but as he reaches the top and end of his task, the rock will always roll back to where it started, and Sisyphus too must turn around and start anew. In such pattern he endeavors endlessly and joyfully. As you keep this image in mind, ask yourself, why Sisyphus continues, apparently in vain, and yet with vigor? Why does he not weep the way down the mountain? I step aside for a moment and to interject a notion of analogous reality. All of us at some point, or perhaps many times over, have felt to be in the very shoes of Sisyphus. Our goals too have rolled down the mountain, and we have turned around and walked down disheartened. But how many, like Sisyphus, have claimed their task again? I cannot possibly detail all your futures. They will be infinitely diverse and far-reaching. But underlying happiness or sadness, success or failure, will be this relationship: the rock, the mountain, and you. Let us return to the question of the myth.